Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Currency Live, a show hosted by me, Chris Harmse, co-founder and chief business officer at BVNK. Our mission here at BVNK is to accelerate global money movement by unifying banks and blockchains. Currency Live is all about the people and the projects at the heart of that shift. Today, I am really excited to be joined by Amy Kalnocki, COO and co-founder of Bitwave. Bitwave is a digital asset finance platform that helps enterprises navigate the complex world of on-chain finance. Amy co-founded Bitwave with Pat White in 2018, and together they've been positioned the company as a critical infrastructure for businesses adopting digital assets, serving major clients from OpenSea, Coinbase, and Hedera. They're making on-chain payments as seamless as traditional invoice processing. No small feat, mind you. BVNK and Bitwave are cooking something up together as well, so definitely watch this space in the coming weeks. And with that, Amy, welcome to the show.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Excited to be here.
Awesome. I actually just realized ahead of the show that it was Bitcoin Pizza Day yesterday, and I'm very proud to have you having my Bitcoin white paper behind me on the wall. But yeah, it's always a funny one, the Bitcoin Pizza Day. I think those 10,000 Bitcoins would be worth $1 billion at current Bitcoin prices, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. But I think it shows that Bitcoin was always a form of money. I think there was some early debates whether Bitcoin was money or not. And I think that the Pizza Day and Pizza Guy proved out in the early days that it is both a store of value, but then also a means of transaction.
100%. Cool. Well, look, as is customary, we normally kick the show off with a couple of quick fire questions on the topics of digital assets and enterprise. Couple of rules: you can only say yes or no, or give a one-word answer. If you have to, we'll allow a one-sentence answer. So are you ready? I'm going to kick it off. They're going to pop up here on screen. Can you do digital asset accounting with spreadsheets alone?
No, not well.
No. Do most companies get crypto accounting right on their first attempt?
No, it's a difficult task, and it's always evolving.
Indeed. Are auditors prepared to handle digital assets on their books in 2025?
Not without the right tools, no.
That's true. Would you recommend a Fortune 500 company hold stablecoins on their balance sheet today?
I would, yes. The risk of being left behind is bigger than the risk of stablecoins, in my opinion.
100%. Have you ever found yourself explaining digital asset accounting at a dinner party?
Way more than I should.
Will the Genius Act for payment stablecoins become law in the US this year?
That's a tough one. Maybe, fingers crossed. Optimistic, yes.
Likewise. 5 years from now, will digital assets be the standard part of accounting software?
I think yes. I think with the help of Bitwave, it definitely could be, and is already for today with our integrations to a standard accounting tool.
Amazing. Well, look, speaking of Bitwave, I'd love to kind of dig into Bitwave's story right off the bat. So Bitwave was launched in 2018, right after the 2017 crypto peak, and at the beginning of what Wendy would have called the crypto winter. So, of 2018. Yeah. Yet it was also the period where you had the kind of blockchain, not Bitcoin narrative pop up, and was starting to gain traction among enterprises. But, I'm eager to know, like, kind of what was the aha moment that made you say, yes, enterprise digital asset accounting is the problem we want to go off and solve, as early as 2018.
So my background has always been in enterprise software, enterprise SaaS software. And then personally, even before the 2017 kind of peak, I was already into digital assets and passionate about them. And my co-founder actually tried to do some consulting work and get paid in Bitcoin and couldn't do it. Like, it was created such a nightmare from an accounting and tracking perspective, and that we were chatting through, and our background was, enterprise software, and he's like, what will businesses need when they actually start taking digital assets as a form of payment? And right off the bat, accounting was the most obvious problem. You as a CFO, you as a business leader, you can't have money moving in and out for services performed if you can't account for it. And so it was an obvious need. But from day one, we've always thought of our purview at Bitwave is broader than just the accounting piece. It's to help enable digital assets in the enterprise, because along with accounting comes a lot of other functions in the office of the CFO, whether it's treasury, ARAP, and payments management, to just things like compliance and wallet tracking, and we call it wallet hygiene here, keeping track of all the different places where you hold digital assets. All of these are challenges, and all of these we knew that would be a need for businesses. And even though 2018 was kind of beginning of one of the cycles, it
Mhm.
was obvious to us that if individuals, and by that point, even if the market was crashing, individuals were so passionate about digital assets, and we knew that if individuals were, businesses would follow. You can't have an industry where consumers are so passionate about something that there aren't businesses there to support, and we wanted to be there to support the businesses.
Amazing, amazing. No, that's definitely true. I mean, it sounds like you guys have got your fingers in a couple of different pies, but how has your
Yeah.
product evolved from those early days, just away from accounting only? What does that kind of roadmap look like going forward as well?
Yeah. Well, we really become the source of truth for the data on the transactions in digital assets for business. So we sit between the blockchain and your fiat accounting solution. And once we brought in all of the blockchain data onto our platform, there's a lot you can do with it. So you can help in a lot of different ways. And so as we've developed, as we've gotten more customers, they've asked, like, hey, all of our info is here already. Could we do X, Y, and Z? And we just continually add to the roadmap.
Okay, amazing. I've seen some kind of quotes around, and in the market around you. You and Pat have been described as being in the middle of the Venn diagram of people who understand, like, accounting, enterprise software, and crypto.
Yeah.
Like, how
Yep.
crucial has that perspective been, in Bitwave success?
Yeah, really, really important. From day one, we have been built for enterprise with enterprise grade security, and then also enterprise grade data. I talked about, really syncing in all the blockchain data. That's not an insignificant task. Like, it's actually really hard to bring financial quality data and audit ready data into a system. And because blockchain data is huge, like, we're talking about a big data set here.
Mm.
And so really understanding that you need to have SOC reports, you need to have all these things in place from a compliance and control perspective in order for people to pass their audits and rely on your software as a service. So being built, it's harder to be like a retail and then try to get into the enterprise. They just have different demands. Things like role-based access to control and audit logs of how people are using the software are standard in enterprise software. But
Mm.
if you're not used to building enterprise grade solutions, it might not be as obvious. And so really approaching it from the perspective of, we want the largest publicly traded companies in the world to be able to use our software from day one has allowed us to be really competitive in the market because our platform is flexible. No two businesses that we work with agree exactly on how to account for things, how to set up their controls, how to do whatever, you name it. Everyone has their own experts, everyone's getting their own advice, everyone's trying to comply to the laws to the best of their interpretation. And so having the flexibility, and no two people are in the same tech stack or using
Mm.
the same blockchains. So having the flexibility and going through a full implementation process with all of our customers to ensure that things are set up correctly for them in their country, in their jurisdiction, with their particular needs is really an enterprise approach that we've always had.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, so you've been in the market for quite some time. You've kind
Yeah.
of given us a little bit of background of, like, Bitwave's story, but really kind of wanting to double click on kind of the real world use cases. How are the finance leaders or the office of the CFO, as you mentioned, using digital assets in their operations today? Like, what do you see
Yeah.
across use, of the underlying platform?
Yeah, I mean, number one, payments. I think payments is the killer use case for crypto. You mentioned the white paper. I'm
Mm,
pretty sure payments was mentioned by Satoshi back in the early days,
indeed.
buying coffee with Bitcoin. It's now has always been and remains the best use case, not the best, but a killer use case for digital assets. So we see customers who are using it as a way to collect revenue. So either selling their services in it, sending invoices for time and services. We work with a lot of token issuers, folks who are creating digital assets and need a way to account for those. People who are paying vendors, paying employees abroad, just paying out invoices in digital assets. And so, really, as a way to interact, a B2B payment network, it's we see that a ton at Bitwave.
Awesome. And I know, it's always been kind of a contentious issue, holding digital assets on your balance sheet. What kind of
Yeah,
companies, do you work with that are kind of looking at that now?
yeah. Well, I mean, I think with digital assets, that's a very broad term, right?
Mm,
We have stable coins all the way
yeah.
to highly speculative instruments. And so I think a balanced approach to any sort of treasury management is probably right. Digital assets can, some of them come with risk, but risk can be part of your profile because risk also can, there's an upside to risk. There's not just a downside to risk. So you have to have a measured approach to how you incorporate things. But things like stable coins, like your early question in the fire
Mm,
round, not exploring new technology, I think can be just as risky for a business. Like you don't want to be, if your competitor can get an advantage by moving their cross-border payments to stablecoins and they're now more profitable than you, like that's a risk to your business too. So being
mm.
left behind and not exploring new technology has business risks. And so I think you just need to take a very balanced and measure approach to digital assets, but I think exploring the benefits of them can have upside.
No, that's definitely true. I think, in the past you mentioned about the Financial Accounting Standards Board's
Yeah,
recommendation to report, crypto assets at fair value would make
yeah,
CFOs a bit more comfortable holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I mean,
yep,
looking back on that prediction, do you think that materialized and where do you think we go from
I
here?
do. Yeah. Any
Yeah.
sort of regulatory clarity. And before, there was a lot of round peg, square hole, square peg, round hole, trying to fit previous things that weren't really designed for digital assets as standards and guidance to digital assets. And so, with what you're saying here, before the standard in the US was to do an intangible asset treatment for digital assets, which meant you could only mark digital assets down on your balance sheet, you couldn't mark them back up. So if you bought Bitcoin and it went down, you had to then report it as a new lower price. And then even if it went up, you had this artificially low entry on your balance sheet. And that was changed last year. So you can now do fair value, mark to market. And so you can always reflect the current fair value on your balance sheet. And yeah, because no one wants to have an artificial loss on their balance sheet. And
Definitely
so
not.
yeah,
No.
I definitely that helped a lot.
Awesome. And we also had this kind of SAB 121 was also recently
Yeah,
rescinded in the US. What
it
impact has
was.
that had on the corporate adoption of digital assets in your view?
I, it's great because again, this was like a weird thing where having to hold, if you're a custodian, you
Mm,
have to hold what you were custodying on behalf of your clients as a liability. But it's not the way it's done for regular. If you were just custodying someone's dollars, and
mm.
so banks would have again a kind of a not real, just accounting type large liability. And so rescinding that, I think, was a great step forward.
No, I would definitely agree with you. I mean, switching gears to our kind of second topic of the day, which is really around like finance team challenges. The challenges that these
Yeah.
pay ops and finance directors are running into. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of a finance director. This business had made some money in
Hmm.
crypto, but they don't know what to do with it. What are they most worried about when it comes to digital assets in their treasury? What keeps them up at night? Can you talk us through the kind of questions they ask you and come to you with?
Yeah, well, I think first it's around control on access to wallets. So, digital asset wallets tend to proliferate. At a corporation, to open a bank account, It's actually, there's a lot of steps, and even sometimes it takes like a board approval before you can
Mm.
open a new bank account. But digital asset wallet's not like that. It's actually fairly easy to spin up a wallet. And so having control of all the different places where you have digital assets, because they move so quickly, I think is step one. So we call that wallet hygiene here at Bitwave, having the process, documentation, and controls around access of different digital assets. Second is having a complete picture of all those and the current balances in each. We have actually had customers who have a year or two later found wallets with a lot
Mm.
of digital
Yeah.
assets that have gone up in
Good. Great
value,
find. Yeah. Great
which is a
find.
great find. It is. It is. It's wonderful. But it showed holes in their process before. And so that's something
Mm.
that Bitwave really helps with, is ensuring you have that complete picture, because you should be able to see both sides of the transactions if you have all your data sources properly set up. The second, is just the volume. In digital assets, Walmart actually did several billion transactions a year, but we have customers who are token issuers, foundations that we work with,
Mm.
who do billions of transactions every month. And so the scale of the microtransactions for fees, if you're collecting fees in digital assets, could be just huge. And so high volume revenue recognition the only way to do that is with a software. Trying to do that, you asked, on a spreadsheet or something like that,
Mm.
is literally impossible. You'd break Excel. And so the scale of the number of different transactions, the volume we're talking about here, is really large. And so having a good accounting process in place to do roll up journal entry reports, roll up reporting, and things like that is really, really important. And then next is making sure that it gets into your existing financial solutions. No business is going to adopt digital assets if they can't maintain the standards and the standard of quality of compliance and control that they have for their fiat assets. And most people are still doing their financial reporting out of an ERP system like an Oracle or Workday or NetSuite. And so making sure that the data gets in there and they can still have one single reporting mechanism. That's a big part of what we do, is bringing the blockchain data and accounting into their existing financial processes.
No, for sure. I mean, it sounds like, you're making traditional accounting or crypto accounting as easy as traditional accounting. But like, what are the unique challenges with crypto accounting versus like traditional accounting? Like, is
Yeah.
it the sheer
Yeah.
quantity of data as you mentioned, or what are those unique challenges?
Yeah, so it's kind of treated like two different things in the accounting world. It's both like an inventory item, but then also like a forex. So, like inventory items, like you think about like, a mug in a
Mm.
warehouse, right? There's an accounting for that, but that mug doesn't go up and down in price. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have a daily traded volume. So you're doing both like inventory type relief methods and tax tracking on an asset that is changing constantly. So it's kind of a combination of two different things in the accounting world, which make it very difficult. Traditional accounting softwares typically go down to 2 or 4 decimal places, but with Bitcoin, like
Mm.
that would be a lot of money. That would be a
Yeah.
big rounding error if you always cut
Yeah.
off at 4 decimal points. And so even just simple things like the UI and interface of uh, traditional solutions do not go down far enough that's like the most basic problem that we solve here at Bitwave.
Mm.
And so it just and then the speed
Mm.
of digital assets just moves so much faster than a lot of things. So keeping track of things that are always a new chain, always a new swap, always a new dex, always a new
Yeah.
something, that people are trading and moving so quickly with instant settlement.
Yeah.
It's just unlike it's not T+3.
Yeah, no, definitely not. No, definitely some challenges. I mean, if you think about transparency, transparency and proper accounting processes became a major focus after FTX,
Yeah.
collapsed. How have those concerns shaped the demands from your enterprise customers since then?
Yeah, we actually developed a whole product after that, called Bitwave Institutional, that was just focused on reconciliation and like a double check between internal book of records and what
Mm.
was on the blockchain, so that people could have a process for matching their own records that they were keeping and their own software that was built on top of blockchain, and what was reflected there with what was actually reflected on the blockchain to catch any sort of discrepancy. So yeah, additional compliance focused offerings.
No, sure. Look, we are coming up to the closing question. It's been a blast thus far, but I'd like to just ask you about what kind of internal resistance do finance teams typically face when using digital assets in your experience, and what's the best advice you have for a corporate finance leader facing this internal resistance?
Yeah, it's always that we're not going to pass our audit. And so I like to show them that's their biggest asset. CFOs have like two concerns, right? That they're not going to pass their audit, but they're going to like go to jail for fraud. And so like Bitwave has, can help with both of those. You can keep proper books and records, keep track of all the money that you are in charge of maintaining, and have visibility and controls and a good process around that. And then that leads to being able to pass your audit because you are keeping those books and records. You have the documentation, accounting memos, all the steps that you take in the fiat world. You can still have those and take those in the digital assets. You have a software like Bitwave. We've been through many audits with many of our clients, so I reassure them that you're going to still pass your audit even if you touch digital assets. It's possible. It happens all the time.
100%. Great advice. I'm sure the CFOs that you speak to are sleeping well at night. Well, look, thanks so much for joining us, Amy. And
Of course,
again,
thank you.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone for listening in. This is Currency Live, hosted by me, Chris Harmse, brought to you by BVNK, the stablecoins payments infrastructure provider. We'll see you next time, and we'll be talking to the co-founder, chair, and CEO of Lead Bank, Jackie Reese, about banking the crypto industry and incoming stablecoin regulation in the US. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.